Are you stuck? What about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for 30-minute moments as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. It's time to celebrate that life with 30-minute moments.
Welcome to 30-Minute Moments, and I am your host, Alena Chapman, and this is all about that ease and betterment in your life. As I was driving in today, I started to think, what would it be if I wasn't in the state of being with the creative spirit? Well, with spirit, but that creative spirit. And I started to look at different facets of my life. You know how much, when I can tap into soul, oh my gosh, or just it's an opening, guys. It's an opening. It's an opening to allow soul to give you the answers versus that critical mind that puts you in the rush, that puts you in the hardship, that puts you in the judgment, the defense, the attack, and the blame, and it has to be something outside myself and all that other stuff. Instead, it's something that just helps you to deal with things with love, any situation with love. And you are actually removed from it. It is more about whatever's going on, not about your interest in it. It's a different way to be when you have that creative way of dealing with a situation. And you find that the answers come so quickly, so smoothly, with so much ease and so much effort. And I'll tell you, to start that, just start feeling, just start listening for a smaller, more soft, positive voice inside you. And every time you start to feel that angst, that worry, that impatience, like I said in the show before, breathe. And then ask yourself, okay, there has to be, I'm going to surrender this and just use me. Use me to bring about a positive effect. And allow yourself, then the answers will start coming to you. Okay? It's just an experiment. Have fun with it this week. All right. Now, for today, we have a serious topic. We have a lot of serious, but this one's serious. We're going to take you back, actually, because this person has written a book about 9/11. And yes, that was a traumatic day. We all know that. We all remember it. But this is the thing. This person, she has this book out called The Light in 9/11, Shocked by Kindness, Healed by Love. Isn't that fantastic? It's about the journey. It's about a story about the 9/11 that has turned into a catalyst for her to experience remarkable personal growth. How did she take tragedy, trauma, and real struggles, and with the healing power of kindness, start to change her life? And that's what we're going to talk to her today, because I know all of us have struggles. Now, this person is Lisa Luckett. Now, hello, Lisa.
Hey, Alena. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you, my dear?
I'm great. It's a beautiful day. Life is good.
Don't you just love that? Mm-hmm. I do, too. All right. So I am fascinated with this story. And I don't know, a year ago you published this first book, correct?
That's right.
In the light of 9/11. Okay.
Sure. Well, because I have a very unusual story of 9/11. So I'm a 9/11 widow, and I had three babies, 7, 4, and 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My 4-year-old and I watched the event unfold in real time, and as it turned on the TV, the building was burning, second plane hit, I knew we were in trouble, and the story goes forward. So
wow.
As it unfolded, and because of my life experience, everything aligned in a certain way that it gave me a very unusual aspect, and in the sense that I was actually prepared to handle what happened.
Because of your experience in the past.
Say again?
Because of some experience that you've had in the past.
Well, because what I believe is actually our life is preparing us. Everything in our life is preparing us for the next thing. And it's not the good things. It's the hard things. And all that stuff that we fear and we ask, why is this happening to us? And all of that is actually extraordinarily purposeful. And it's how we use it that is how we can redirect our future if we just shift our thinking toward that. And in my case, my husband Teddy and I had just had our third baby, and I was 41 and just generally miserable with 3 little kids and postpartum depression and hard, all the things that go with motherhood in your early 40s.
Yes.
Everybody listening who's a mom can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother-in-law, the first way this starts is Teddy walked down because he worked on the 105th floor of the North Tower. So that's the first tower that was hit. So he was above that fire. And I knew because he walked down in 1993 in the first bombing, which many people actually forget about. But the buildings were hit originally, and there was so much smoke held within the interior of those buildings that when my husband got home after a 4.5-hour march, very slow march out of the building from the top, he was covered in soot.
Oh, wow.
So much so that the water in the showers, I was sitting on the toilet talking to him, like, oh, my God, what ran black for 5 minutes.
Wow.
He was just covered. And he was lucky enough to have gone in with a sweater, so he breathed through that. But he had a cough for many months afterward. So anyway, that was 93. And in that case, 6 months later, I got really angry at one night at a dinner party, and people, quite frankly, laughed at me. Because we went right back into those buildings within a month or two after they were, they said they were all clear structurally and everything.
Yes.
But the truth is, I got angry, but nobody else did. We just swept it under the rug and forgot about it.
And went on.
Meanwhile, they went into 2 targets. We went back in, either subconsciously or consciously. You had to know. There were a lot of people that did not go back to work after that. There were people that left their jobs.
Right. Too scary, too much.
Too scary, but the truth is there's arrogance in New York and there's arrogance on Wall Street and, bigger than life kind of thing, invincible. And that's the ego testosterone that runs that industry or did at that time. So anyway, everybody went back in and our society said go back in. That wasn't just them. It was everybody. So, and then the second piece of my story goes that my mother-in-law, who was not well and had lost a husband early, was terrified that Teddy was going to die of a heart attack because he was a little overweight and he was 40 years old and working a stressful job, trying to manage now a new baby and the stresses of life, of a young family. And so every time I would see her in the years we were married, which was close to 11, she would tell me that, worried that he was going to die of a heart attack. So I ran his death through my mind like hundreds of times.
Oh, this all prepared you. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
So
interesting.
I bought as much life insurance as we could afford. We bought it, together.
Oh, wow.
I knew where all the important documents were, and we made sure we went to bed at night, not fighting, not angry, whatever, even though we didn't fight a lot. But, and I had tried to let it go. So on the morning of 9/11, after the initial shock, I was also a nursing mother of a 4-month-old. So I was standing there calm. I was clear. It was like the edge. I was 10 feet back from the edge, firmly planted in this offensive position because I was prepared.
You were prepared materially
prepared
in the situation. Way. Yes.
And so I could see things. I could think.
Yes.
I was still in shock. Don't get me wrong. But I couldn't get my head around the fact that Ted was dead, although when I saw that smoke, because of my first experience, I knew no one would survive that level of dark, black, thick, oily smoke. There was no way.
Right.
And I learned later he actually died of asphyxiation.
Right, from the
never
smoke.
Found him. There was 1,200 people out of 2,800 that were not ever found.
Right.
So he
wow.
was very, very, very hot, and there was no oxygen. So they really asphyxiated. And so for people that, think about that, it's kind of gruesome, but, there were many horrible parts of that day.
There were.
The way people died.
It's not a good way to go. But
ashes for me. I've never had to have closure, as people say, and they're still working on things to identify victims. And what do you do with that 18 years later? So I'm much about, you and I and your listeners and audience are much more about, ashes to ashes, let go and let God, and because we're really about a higher self and a higher power. So all of that was basically from the morning, about 11 o'clock in the morning, 9/11, I had my first, what I know was my first download. And I didn't know those words then. I didn't know anything about spirituality then.
Yes.
All I could see was my friends hurting so badly, and my house was full of people just literally spinning, wringing their hands, just shocked and terrified and traumatized. And I couldn't get my head around Teddy's death, but I could get my head around the fact that our country had just been attacked. So I'm a warrior, and I'm an American, and let me tell you, so all I wanted to do was help them, because I was in this weird place, right? So they were saying to me, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm a woman from the 60s, 70s, 80s. I was raised in the feminist movement. We don't take help. Are you kidding?
That's so funny.
Right? No way.
We're Wonder Women, right? Yeah.
Oh, never.
Yeah.
So the worst thing in the world for me was to be helped. But literally a voice said to me, Lisa, let them help you. And I let go. So it was literally like I was blown so wide open, literally the openness of the trauma blew me so wide open. This came in, and it was so much stronger than my ego and my thinking mind that I followed it, and I walked through this door, this metaphoric door. I surrendered and literally was overwhelmed with these feelings of gratitude, humility, and this sense of love that I've had ever since.
Isn't that amazing?
Right.
And you see, I do understand this. Yeah.
I could not stop seeing the positive in everything.
You are listening to 30-Minute Moments, and I'm your host, Alena Chapman, and we are with Lisa Luckett, and we will be right back.
You're listening to 30-Minute Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you discover your true purpose on WOWO and at WOWO.com.
Welcome back to 30-Minute Moments. I'm your host, Alena Chapman, and we are talking to Lisa Luckett. Now, Lisa, I want to get right to this because you know what? You and I both opened to that wonderful, bliss. It's a clarity. It's a bliss. It's overwhelming. It's releasing. It's a very powerful, but a lot of people don't open to it. A lot of people would stay in the struggle that I am a 70s woman or whatever it is for them, that I'm going to be the warrior. I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to suffer through this. It's very interesting that you being in that place and just all of a sudden just surrendering it. That's big.
Well, I think what
that's really big.
About is the knowing, as I call it. We all have different words for it. The knowing, which is all of our intuition.
Yes.
Right.
A gift from the Spirit.
What trauma can do, and people are just waking up. We have this awakening happening.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
It's universal. It's not cultural. It's not economic. It's not gender. It's just people are just literally waking up like a rainstorm is coming, and it's who's getting hit with the drops. And many of us, though, and there's books and books and books and books. My book is one of hundreds of thousands of books that are written about this awakening. And, so there's a fast track. So like you and I, like what it did is it fast tracked us to the spiritual growth.
Right.
And the pain is actually that. So if you reframe pain and you reframe trauma to say, wait a minute, this is super painful, but it's going to fast track me to that personal growth that I need. And when I get on the other side of it, which always happens, there's always a new normal. It just takes time.
Right.
If you allow it.
If you allow
it.
it.
Fight it. Right. You wake up in a better place.
Exactly. It's not fighting it. It's actually surrendering.
Right.
It's that surrender.
Stoic, that's our training. We've been trained to be stoic. We, the way our country was settled by, religious exiles, it just powered through the pain and just sat there with all this strict rule and, no emotional explanation whatsoever, full weakness, very dominant.
It's a John Wayne thing. It's a John Wayne thing. My dad was a self-made man. I mean, he was a self-made man, and he was strong. But I also saw the pain. And I remember, when I went through a struggle, I remember him saying, now just don't even cry. You wait until it's over, and then you can cry all you want. But right now you fight.
Well, that's true, too. But at least he let you cry.
Well, after.
Well, that's right. I mean,
Do you
the thing of it is emotions are too scary, and from the masculine or male side, they're too afraid that if they let it go, they'll never get it back.
But see, it's not the feeling of, I think everybody has to get to a point in it. Everyone, when it first hits, you want to fight, but it wears you and it tears you. And finally, you have to surrender. It's too much to deal. It's too much to deal
when
with.
we say fight, I think it's fight the emotions, right? You're fighting within to control yourself. And what you and I are saying is you have to allow it to process, because nature is driving the boat here. And that was my experience in 9/11, is I recognized, I didn't know it was a universe. I didn't know it was God. I was not thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm having a spiritual moment. No, I was trusting myself, because I could see that the world was shattered, that literally all the rules were broken.
And no see, me, it was a spiritual moment. For me, it was. You have to trust. Well, and you have to surrender. But you have to get to that point, and you have to process to that point to be able to let it go. And that takes time for people. It does take time. But when it happens, and if you allow it to happen, my gosh, you're in a new world. You truly are. So tell me more about this kindness and how you have moved it forward.
Well, so that's what's happening now. So what happened to me is that in all the processing around my husband's potential death, I never imagined what would come with it, which this remarkable kindness of strangers. That the people around me, the closest family member, both sides of his family exploded and couldn't handle any of it. So they were not helpful to me. But it was the tertiary, the people I didn't know that well, the ones that come to the surface, that rise to the surface in the moment, because they are the right ones to be there, because it's all being orchestrated in a much higher place.
Right.
So we have to allow them in.
Yes.
So in the kindness of strangers, people for me just showed up. And that's what people need to realize. In all of the chaotic experiences that are happening now, either man-made or Mother Nature, traumatic, trauma, horrible, people are showing up for each other. It's called the godness. I call it the godness of 9/11. It's the godness of the situation, the goodness without one O.
Yeah.
And it's people showing up for each other. And one of the most important things for this is happening more and more and more, because maybe it's supposed to, until we get this point, we're going to keep being shown this, until we understand that we actually have to allow people to help us. Because if we don't, we're blocking them from feeding their soul.
Of course, yes. And that is so true, because it is a two-way street. Every time we decline, it is a cycle. Well, it's meant to be. It's just meant to be. When someone helps you and you decline it, thinking that you're being whatever you're being, you're actually inhibiting their growth and their ability to become more aware. So it's that giving and receiving. You're screwing up the process.
You're stalling the process, and as a result, you get stuck. Right?
You do.
Stuck and you can't move.
Well, sure. You isolate
we're moving
yourself
through things all the time.
Yeah.
And the most important part of this, which is where our society is really stuck, is that what people feel is vulnerable. It makes them feel weak, because we have been taught that weakness and vulnerability is weakness, when vulnerability is actually the ultimate courage.
Yes, it is. It's the
until
trueness.
you let down your guard, nothing can come in.
That's right.
Nothing.
But if you let down your guard, and does it take? Well, we all talk about vulnerability. If it does take courage to be vulnerable, it takes much more strength in yourself to become vulnerable than it is to put a mask on.
Absolutely. No question about it. And it's just beginning to move into society. And
Slowly.
So when I speak, the ultimate courage is vulnerability, because you're letting yourself be open. You're
letting yourself be you.
Open.
Yeah.
Criticism. You're leaving yourself open to shame, but what we've been taught of, to be shamed, when in fact, 10 seconds of courage to move through that vulnerability puts you in a place where you will dimensionally change your experience of the people you're with.
You'll change your whole entire life. Better. When you open up to vulnerability, you open up to the gifts. You open up to, I truly believe this, when you open up to vulnerability, you open up to the gifts of this universe and of Source. When you have a mask on, you are actually putting a mask on yourself. You can't see them.
Right.
But when you're vulnerable and you're out there and you just allow yourself be the true divine you, then everything opens up.
Right. Well, in the darkness of the soul, right, those dark nights of the soul, when we get into these places that are so painful and we don't think we're
The
ever
shadow.
coming out,
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
we have to, that's where the trust, that's
The
where
trust.
the faith in the journey needs and must be applied. And I'm not saying it's easy, and it still happens to me
No, it's
all the
hard.
time.
Yeah.
The only difference in my life today is that I know to trust the process and to let go. And it's really hard. I just had to do it myself with one of my kids. It is excruciating, but it's also the right thing, and I know that. From my intuition, from my intelligence, from life on the planet for all these years, yeah.
I love it. Too bad we have to go through so much to learn the process.
But that's why we're here, right?
I know it is. It's why we're here.
Incarnated to be in contrast.
This is 30-Minute Moments. Be right back with my very favorite part.
This is 30-Minute Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you find your inner self every Sunday on WOWO and at WOWO.com.
Welcome back to 30-Minute Moments. And you know what? It is the shift. And here we go. We are going to talk about, well, this whole show has been an aha moment, a pivotal. I hope it's been a pivotal for you. But let's see if she has another story for us. Lisa, do you have another story?
Oh, do I have a story for you?
Oh,
Yes.
boy.
Okay, so it's of course, this whole thing is grounded in 9/11. It's
Right.
not as much about 9/11. So 9/11 was a catalyst for me to experience remarkable personal growth.
Right.
So the story goes like this. So about 2 weeks after 9/11, I started feeling this unbelievable strength coming up from within. And I determined, I don't even know how long it was, a week, 2 weeks, somewhere in there, soon after, that there was no way I was going to let Teddy and all the others die in vain, that I would make something good come from this as my life's purpose.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Little did I know I was setting the single greatest intention of my life. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew is I had to do something or the terrorists would win, and that was completely unacceptable to me. So I'm a warrior, back to that. But I didn't even know that then. But my warrior self took over. And how do you make something good come from this? Well, the only thing I could do was figure it out.
Right.
So you have to look at 9/11 as the emotional equivalent of breaking every single bone in your body simultaneously. You would go to the doctor for your bones. So I went to the doctor for my mind.
Perfect.
I'd had 40 years of such massive dysfunction within what would appear to the outside as a normal family, that by the time I got to 9/11, I was so tightly wound that I literally was shot to a different place.
Yeah.
I was shot out of the box, a box I had never fit in the first place, only to realize I should always have been out there anyway. So what do I do? I'm swimming upstream anyway. I see there's nobody has a handle on any piece of this, and they're not going to have it. I go to the analyst's couch, and I dig through my life. I go macro, micro, my personal experiences, my traumas, my tribulations, the relationships, not looking to blame, but to find the triggers of what the problem is, where the root causes lie. Because when you figure things out, when you take these stories to an analyst, when you go to a therapist, once you identify them, they actually dissipate.
Yes.
They leave. You can't even tell. I can't even tell you what I talked about.
No, it's true.
Gone.
You name it, you
hold all of that in. You wonder why people are getting sick. You wonder why there's so much cancer.
Right.
You wonder why there's so much fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
That's a nerve disorder.
It is a nerve.
Everybody is so anxious because we've got so much pressure building on this.
Wow, and so much we hold. We hold it. We're like a pressure cooker.
We are.
We really are.
Right. There's complete explanation as to why we're here. But because we are in the box, and we want to stay in the box because we're so afraid of what people think of us,
yes,
that we keep going through this vicious cycle.
Into this normal,
it's independence. Right?
It is.
And honestly, Alena, pain is the motivator. You can wake up one day just because you wake up one day and you get that aha moment and you click in and you're there. But most often, it's pain that gets you there.
Yes, unfortunately, it really is. I would love to make it that it's a good experience that gets you there. But it always
Well, it would
does
be nice.
seem to be
They do,
pain.
and that's true. I mean, but unfortunately,
We try.
if we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, we
Yes.
came to this third dimension for contrast.
We did.
We came here
We totally
to
did.
have good and bad, to give us
To
learning
learn.
experiences.
That's the law of polarity. It doesn't define. If all you know is goodness, say we're sitting in heaven and everything is unconditional love, everything's joy, everything's peace, and you don't have anything to base what that really is worth or what that is.
Right.
That's why we're learning down here. That's my spiritual theory there, folks. So, yeah.
I agree with your spiritual theory.
Oh, thank you.
Completely. So the epitaph of this very long story is that 4 years later, but you have to know this part because it's important in our culture. So I drank wine at night. I had a pretty healthy wine habit, a dependence, if you will.
Yeah.
So my dad was an alcoholic, and which is part of the whole story, and high functioning, but very damaged. And my therapist would say to me, we can't finish your therapy until we get your father out of the room, and we can't get your father out of the room until you stop drinking. So what happened to me is I quit drinking, and about a year later, by the time 4 years in, I had peeled away so much dysfunction, like peeling a banana, right? Peeling an onion. I'm peeling. What happens? I'm open. And one day, I don't know what she said or what happened. One day, I sat bolt upright on the couch, and I went, oh, my God, I have it. We just have to be nice. Right?
Yes.
You tell me how that wouldn't solve the problem.
Oh, yeah. It's love. Right. It's kindness. It's
all, but again, because in my story, my first 40 years of my life, no one was ever nice to me. It wasn't until 9/11 when everyone was nice to me.
Oh, my gosh, this was a humongous lesson for you. No wonder it's a growth. Humongous.
So I was literally held buoyant. My children and I were held buoyant by this energy that was being showered on us, not for a few months, for years and years and years. And to this day, I still get it.
Yes. Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
So how can people follow you? The website and how they can follow you?
There's a website, which is Cosmina, which is a made-up word meaning where coziness meets glamour, because the shawls that I would knit for women were called Cosmina shawls. They're a great
Very
story.
nice. I like that.
On this website, www.cosmina, C-O-Z as in zebra, M as in Mary, EENA.com, and then Lisa Luckett, LUCKETT.com. It all links together. But the book has the story, and it's The Light in 9/11, and it's on Amazon.
So everyone out there, this has been a tremendous show. Know that there's always a bigger divine plan, and start to open yourself up. Surrender. Namaste.
This has been 30-Minute Moments featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now at wowo.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.